Different's great, but being different for the sake of being different, I'm not a big fan of, right? If you just want to be different for the sake
technology
of it. Technology
increased, I would hide behind it.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes.
Because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Master Connector Show. I'm your co-host, Rob Genovesi, and we want to thank you for joining us today, and hopefully you are joining us live because live is where it's at. Live is where you get your questions answered, and you get to interact with me and Steve as well as our guest, so you can fill in those gaps of knowledge to help take your business to the next level. And we want to thank our friend Russ Hedge, who is sponsoring today's episode. Russ Hedge, he's got over 30 years of sales and marketing success in multiple industries. Can help you be successful in your business by helping you truly connect, transform your business, connect to new customers. RussHedge.com. Thank you, Russ, for your great friendship of the show and for your sponsorship. And listen, we want you to be able to connect with all of our guests here. And we understand that you're busy. We get it. We want you to go to masterconnector.show. Why? Because we got a whole roster of amazing people like today's guest that you can tune in, get your question answered, interact with, meet other people, but mark your calendar. If you see somebody in that roster that you go, I need to hear from this person. This is what I'm looking for. Mark your calendar for that date. Make sure you show up live because we'll take your questions live during the show. We only got a short time, but listen, today's show is all about leadership. And I'm really excited about this because this was one of the things that I had to learn early on. And it was the concept of everybody really needs to be a leader if you're on your own business, but it's not what you think. It's not that you need to lead an army of employees, 50, 100 employees. You need to start by leading yourself. And I read a lot of books by John Maxwell, the preeminent leader on leadership. And he said, leaders know the way, go the way, and show the way. And it starts with you. So listen, we are all connectors here, but there's only one master connector. So let's bring him on, Mr. Steve Spiro. What's up, Steve?
What's up, Robbie G? Yeah, John Maxwell is amazing. And he also said leadership is spelled EXAMPLE, right? Which is example, right? And so you got to be the right example. And you have been a great example, sir. I appreciate your big time and your friendship as well. So what's going on, everyone? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. All right, here's a question. Have you ever considered that your greatest leadership strength was born from a time when you felt unseen, unsupported, or disconnected? Now, maybe not in your case, but in my case, yes. A little backstory. I was, I was bullied. I had like zero friends. My one good close friend moved away, and when I went to attempt to see him, I drove on my bike. I think it was like a half-hour bike ride, and he was like, it was almost like he didn't care I was there, and then we never saw each other again. I was like, okay, I don't think he wants to be my friend, and so that was that. And best friends. If you watch my TED Talk, best friends on TV, Captain Kirk from Star Trek, Ralph Crandon from The Honeymooners, and Felix Unger from The Odd Couple. I didn't have friends. My mom, she was busy. I mean, I love my mom. Thank God she's with us today. She's doing well. But she was a single mom trying to raise us. Didn't have at one point a high school. She barely had a high school education. She married my dad early on. They eventually got divorced. But she reinvented herself. So I felt rejected in a way. And this is just a young kid. It wasn't like my mom, but she was busy building a career. She went back to school for higher education. Wound up going on to get her master's in social work. I'm very proud of my mom. She's been amazing. She should write a book. She's done some incredible things. But anyway, I didn't have that at home. I didn't have friends. I was bullied. I was written off. I knew I had love there, but there was not much there. My dad, not much that there was. Everyone was busy. They were consumed with other things. My dad he had his liquor store, and he worked all the time. And when he was home, he was sleeping. And and again, when they got divorced, he wasn't around. So there wasn't much. And so I really felt overlooked. I felt misunderstood. I was alone. But the story is this, and Rob kind of alluded to it. It's not about, where you were, it's where you're going. It's not about the past. And so I always felt like I was destined for something to be significant and not be alone. And I always felt there was a fantasy in me that I would be a superhero one day. And I don't know, there was something in me. And now I'm the master connector. Okay, go figure. But it's just I believe we all have something in us that we want to really break out. And I've learned that true success is not how many things that you have, but how many people are better off because you were here. That's true significance. I'm blessed because I mentor a few people, a handful of people, not for because I'm a coach or a life coach, and nothing wrong with that, because I saw the value of mentorship in my life and how that has affected me and been such a blessing to me. And I want to pay that forward. And why I decided to become a inspirational keynote speaker and be on stages, because I have an opportunity to make a difference and make an impact. It's why I call myself an inspirational keynote speaker, not just a motivational speaker, because I believe that motivation is an inside job. Rob and I learned that for a long time, but you can inspire people to find something within themselves to then want to take things to the next level in life. And I agree with Rob wholeheartedly. Leadership starts with you. It starts with you, and you have to lead yourself first before you can figure out how to lead others. And I, as Rob has alluded to, had very little. I had no clue. I was clueless. I didn't know how to either relate to people, let alone lead them. Are you kidding? I was shy. I was introverted. Nothing. So, but that's changed, and thank God for a lot of books, a lot of mentorship, a lot of self-development, and just a lot of action. So you could too as well. So anyway, if you're excited as I am, which I am incredibly excited to introduce our next guest, I want you to type in the comments right now. Let's go. And Robbie G, I'll pass it to you, buddy.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Let's go, everyone. Mosongo Moukwa is a best-selling author of Be a Leader of Significance, an entrepreneur, and a trusted business strategist to Fortune 500 companies. He helps small business owners grow into confident leaders who create lasting impact, achieve financial freedom, and reclaim their time to focus on what matters most. With a global perspective and deep entrepreneurial insight, Mosongo empowers leaders to think bigger and lead with purpose. His work has been featured in Forbes, International Business Times, and the Chicago Tribune. Please welcome to the show, Mosongo Moukwa. What's up, Mosongo?
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Thank you, Steve. Happy to be on your show.
It is a blessing to have you and an honor, sir. You are an amazing man, and very, very proud to have you in my community as a friend. And I just love your voice. Your voice is just so cool sounding. So I know Morgan Freeman has a cool voice, but Mosongo Moukwa, incredible voice, right? So, but anyway,
a pretty cool name too,
and a really cool name, incredible name. But just want to acknowledge, welcome my amazing sister Eileen is on here with us, and of course MZ Michael Zajac is in the house with us. So appreciate you. So Mosongo, we're going to get to this. Listen, one of the things I admire about you is your heart, and maybe you were born with an incredible heart. I had to grow my heart because it was so wounded for many years. But eventually, as I started to get out there, and people started to see the real Steve, the Steve that wasn't hidden, and they started seeing my heart. Well, I first had to heal my heart before I was able to share my heart. But I want to talk about heart. It's not about me. So we want to hear your perspective. So community, type in #heart. So Mosongo, what does it truly mean to lead from the heart in today's business world?
Yes, thank you, Steve. This is a good question, and you were talking about your own evolution. Actually, I went through my own evolution, so to speak. So just years ago, I finished my PhD. I was working as a researcher associate at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois. And then I find this job with a specialty chemical. So I was excited to be a part of their team. I was dreaming of developing new products, having lots of patents and so on. But then not long after I started the job, the VP of R&D called me in one-on-one meeting and then told me, we would like to make you a manager. So, and I never managed before. So I was caught off guard. with this sudden announcement. So I told him, I said, well, I'm not too sure if I'm ready to do this. But he told me, well, don't worry. I've spoken to your colleagues. They all think that you'll be a good candidate. So suddenly I was a brand new manager with no managerial experience and would have to figure things out. So that was really my situation. But a few people helped me along the way, filling gaps. But I was more or less on my own. So and then from there, I learn, I progress, and so on. But really, what crystallized for me, Steve, and hopefully for some of the listeners out there, is the thought that your growth and comfort, they can never coexist. So if you remember, the time that we grew the most was really the time where we were put in a situation that was somewhat uncertain, and that was my case.
Love
now,
that.
so that's really what it was. Now you ask about the leadership from the heart.
And the heart,
Well,
yeah.
From leadership is really a set of behaviors. Right? So that's really what it is. But leadership of significance is really one that touches the heart and the mind. So you can think of it, the extreme end, you have this transactional leadership. I worked for a COO many years ago. When I met him the first time, I went to his office to ask him what his expectations were and so on. His answer was, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Yeah. So you cannot find as pure transactional type of leadership as that was. But really what I find is that when you're beginning to lead people by touching their heart and mind, actually you have a much higher productivity in your organization. People are happy, they can produce more. And then you begin to realize that actually at the end of the day, it was not about market share or price per share and so on, but those were really the outcome of the transformation actually you're bringing in the organization.
So Mosongo, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I agree. I learned about leading from the heart too. It's the thing that I had actually, because I wasn't good any other way. But I know there's people out there, they would hear lead with the heart and they would think, well, that means being too soft and you can't be a good leader that way. What would you say to that person?
Well, I would say it's not. There is no contradiction. You can still pursue the goal of achieving the financial, but at the same time developing and allowing for your team members to grow. It's not in contradiction. In fact, what I've seen from my own experience is that when you do the latter, you actually can achieve much more. Now, what do employees are actually looking for? They're looking for a sense of affiliation. So let me illustrate. So when I was early in my career, so I met this young chemist, very bright chemist and whatnot. So I asked him, I said, what is it about this organization that you like, working here? So I thought perhaps he was going to tell me, oh, you're giving us good project, you're doing the chemistry, which was true, and all of that. He told me, no, I love it here because during lunchtime, I can play ping pong. I can play ping pong with Mike. I get to meet him and so on. So it dawned on me then that do you have that, apart from those projects, there was that need, that sense of affiliation that was very important for that particular chemist. So that's one element there. Another element is you need as a leader to create that psychological safety. There was a young lady many years ago. She was in a marketing department, so she got transferred into my group. And then I was asking her, I said, hey, well, what was happening in that department? He said, well, initially my boss was giving me lots of praises and so on. But then over time, I was no longer invited in meetings and so on. I would hear from my colleagues that how terrible I was and so on. So I asked a question. I say, why did you not go? And then ask him, why is it that you're no longer in those meetings? She told me, because I was feeling invisible. So I could not even raise that question. So that psychological safety there is extremely important. You need to allow for that space where people can feel that they could come to you It gives you, that doesn't mean you don't give them negative feedback. Yeah, and if it's required, you need to give that negative feedback. But you need to create that space because it allows for people to be creative and so on. And then finally, people need to feel that they are valued. So what that means is not necessarily giving them a gift and so on. You see, just as an example, I remember years ago, there was one manager, as I was walking in the corridor, I told him, I said, "Hey, John, I have not forgotten you. I know I've not spoken to you for a long time, but I've not forgotten you." Later on, without me realizing, he came to me, he said that comment there made his day. He felt value just by that mere comment. So there are a number of things there as a leader that we can do to create that space, to create that atmosphere where people somewhat they get energized in some way.
Yeah, I love it. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I remember back in my marketing days, I had read a book. Actually, some of you guys know the story, but I was in the advertising industry early on, and I was a horrible boss, horrible leader. I didn't know how to lead. I just knew how to be punitive, if you will. And my partner says, "Hey, we got good news. We're going to send you to How to Win Friends and Influence People on the company." And I didn't realize him saying that I didn't think about it, but that was his way of saying you have terrible people skills. I read the book and eventually find myself managing a team of people. Mm-hmm. And I remember, saying things like, it's okay to make some mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, and just sharing and just giving them the space that you said, which is so, so vital to be able to feel, confident that they could grow. And it's like, it's okay to make mistakes. It's like, as long as you learn from them, let's not just make mistakes being careless. Let's learn from them, but it's okay. But I love also what you said on the transactional piece of this. And, I have a talk that I give, it's called the death of the old school sales rep, going from transactional to transformational. We're in a world where it's B2B sales or B2C sales, but what about B2H, business to human? And so there's so much value today in the human aspect and also in transformation. So I'd love to speak with you and get your perspective, Mosongo, on transformation. You kind of alluded to it.
Yes.
So here's the question. How do leaders shift? Now, we talked about the value of it, but how do they shift from transactional to transformational leadership in a practical way?
No, this is a great question there, Steve. You see, as a leader, you need to get to know your people, just beyond the project, beyond the homework. There are so many places where you interact with them. So you need to learn. You need to learn their stories, and I always think that there are some social scientists that they say that the stories are actually like a mirror of other people's soul. So you need to learn other people's story. One exercise I did with one of my teams many years ago was that rather than just asking people, "Hey, introduce yourself. Oh, I'm John, blah, 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 blah." I told them, I said, let's put you in pairs. So one individual will interview the other, and then you come back to the group. The interviewer will report on what the interviewee told him or her. But the question was that you have to ask the other person, what is it there that really brings them alive at the workplace? So that was the question. And then they will switch and so on. So that was extremely revealing. For example, there was one fellow there. His name was a Dr. Lee. Dr. Lee was an older gentleman, and he was very instrumental on one of the chemical processes in the company. But many of his colleagues, they were not even aware. So that was the thing. So he was extremely humble. But really, what brought him alive, which really got him excited, was the fact that he participated in going to the plant, troubleshooting there, helping the manufacturing people and so on to get it through. So now the interviewer, as he was relating the story, he told us that when Dr. Lee was telling that story, he was extremely excited. He could see that excitement in him. That was the time that Dr. Lee, became alive. So what does that mean? That means that if you create a situation where Dr. Lee can be put there in that situation where he's there helping other people to troubleshoot, to make something there get through, then now you have something there to work with Dr. Lee. So this is an exercise that I would encourage people to do. That's how slowly you can begin then to transform the organization, because now you're beginning to get the people to know each other just beyond their name and casual conversation. They're really beginning to know, hey, this is really what this fellow get excited with. So this is, if we put him in this situation, that really will be. So this is one example that I will offer to the listener out
Love
there.
that. That's great. So Mosongo and I are part of a networking group, and I'm actually going to be giving my showcase this Friday. So if you're interested, community, direct message me and I'll invite you. But I'm going to be talking about along the lines of what you're speaking about. So learning how to tell your story and also have other people tell their story. That's how you take this thing from going from transactional. I like to say, let's get out of the what do you do dance and let's get into telling each other our stories, because we're not identified, we're not who we are because of what we do.
Yes.
I mean, granted, there's a lot to that, but in the same time, we're people, we're humans. We've got so much more breadth and depth to what we do and who we are and what we're about. And you got to get into that. And I believe that's a great way is helping. I love the idea of the interviewing. And I might, if I was doing it, I might say, so tell me your story, and I might lead them with a couple of other questions. Where were you born and raised? How'd you get to where you are?
Yes.
What fires you up today? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Steve, that you just said it right there. That was one of my favorite questions early on in networking. You get past, everybody just goes, so what do you do? Right. Because it's a natural, intuitive question. But the problem is it's a dead end, right? It's like, oh, I'm in life insurance. Great. I'm going to go get some chicken. Like it doesn't go anywhere. So to your point, I learned to ask people, I would ask that. So what do you do? But I would quickly get to, so how did you come to get where you are now?
Yeah.
And man, they will tell you their story. They'll start back when they were 5 years old and, they had, but you learn a lot that way, right?
Yeah. And Rob, you're absolutely right. You just ask somebody, where did you grow up? And you'll see how these people, they'll be talking. I was, I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, so how was it there when you're growing up? And then all of a sudden now you create a different kind of interaction, actually. It's really.
Yeah, no doubt. That's where you grew up, right? Mosongo in Alabama, right?
No, I grew up in the Congo. I was
no,
born
I
in the
know.
Congo. I know.
You say you have a southern accent now.
That's Steve. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's great. Well, we appreciate it. One of my favorite mottos is there's danger in the comfort zone, but I think there's a lot of people that want safety, and safety is good. But there's also time and place for safety. So let's talk about safety. Community, type in #safety. So Mosongo, why is creating psychological safety such a critical part of leadership today? I kind of alluded to it before, but I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yes. I mean, you as a leader, you don't want people to be afraid, but you want people to respect you, but you don't want them to be afraid of suggesting ideas. You don't want them to be afraid of even providing different point of view. So that's extremely important, because then you have the people now, they are really feeling that they are contributing to what you or the organization is trying to build. But at the same time, they feel like on one end they're being valued, so therefore they become productive. Therefore, their creative juice is flowing, and there are lots of those organization psychologists. They have written thousands of papers on the subject, and it's been demonstrated that in organization where that kind of a space is created, those are the most productive organizations. Actually,
love that. That's great. Yeah. So. One of the things that I like talking about, and I think I covered it on my TED Talk, is asking good questions, and that's incredibly important. Being curious is super important. So you alluded to it in that interview thing you spoke about. So talk about curiosity. So community, type in #curiosity. How does curiosity unlock innovation and better decision-making within a team, Mosongo?
Yeah, I mean, curiosity. Obviously, curiosity about your team members in terms of what they do, what's happening in their family, their children, or what's happening with them. You don't already need to ask them, "Hey, how is my project going?" I mean, whoa, 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 whoa. You can ask him, "Hey, man, you told me that your son was playing that baseball game yesterday. How did that go?" And then now you build then a different kind of relationship. If you just see a person, you say, "What's up?" and then you walk. That means you are not really open to any types of conversation. So we need to learn to ask the good question. For example, rather than asking person how hey, are we achieving our milestone, you could ask them, for example, this week, what is really something there that really was, caught your attention. Tell me something that really excited you this week. Then you have now a different conversation with the individual. So you're not invariably you may be talking about how the project is going, the milestone, but now you're beginning you set the stage now to have a different conversation altogether. So that's what I meant. So by changing a little bit the way we phrase conversation, we can extract much, much more from the individual, be it in their own lives, be it on how projects are going, and so on. So that's what I meant by that.
So the curiosity part is, I mean, overall, people should just be curious, right? Because that's how we learn. But I want to dovetail this with the prior question about safety, and it made me think of a time, when I was still in corporate, and I had taken a role at a mid-sized company, mid to large-sized company, to turn around a department. And there was lots of strained relations between this creative department, which I was brought in to turn around, and sales and printing and manufacturing and all these other departments. And what I did was I took what you just said about safety and curiosity, and my first day, I spent the entire day, didn't do any actual work. I let the people that were working with me, let them handle the work. And I simply went department to department, got to know some of the people, found out who was kind of running that department, and just asked them, "Hey, so what is the hardest part about what you do here?" And let me tell you something. Two things happened. Number one, they told me, and if I could directly fix that, I made a mental note, and I did. So what it did was they realized that I was there to actually help, because I'm a new guy, right? Who's this new guy coming in wanting to change things? And the other thing was I developed trust with them. I made them feel safe, because I was here going, "What's your biggest challenge?" And I go, "I think I can do something about that." And so they felt safer with this new guy. And they also, because of my curiosity, I was able to actually help them very quickly, do something quickly, so that they would trust me more to be able to do the bigger things I needed to do.
Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right on there, Rob. And that's what that's a strategy I also employed. Each time I moved to a new organization, as I was meeting people, I would ask them, if tomorrow we have to change something here, what do you think that we can change here tomorrow to have a great impact? You'll be surprised how many ideas people will be giving to you as the new guy. And then as you're mapping up your strategy, now you have lots of elements there to make an impact right in the beginning, because people will know that you have listened to them, and actually they gave you suggestions on things that could have a tremendous impact. Not that you should implement each one of them, but they're giving you a clue in terms of what the organization could be. Actually, that's really what you did there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to real quick before we get to closing the showdown. Michael Zajac, MZ says, "My grandfather, captain of the U.S. Army in World War II, said the guys stayed in the foxhole died. Leadership in business is in life and death, but there's a similarity in between to the balance between being safe and curiosity, innovation, for sure." So I appreciate that, Michael. Thank you. So speaking of just being amazing, I know, Mosongo, you have something you want to offer our community. So can you tell them a little bit about what you have that you'd like to offer our community, and any best way to reach you so they can reach out to you?
Yeah, that is a blueprint which I'm encouraging them to download. It's going to help them just to see where they are. in their business, in their venture. Just a quick thing there that will. It's more of a reflective, just to say, where am I? How am I doing here? So it's not like a 3 steps or so. I encourage them to look at it, and by all means, once you have looked at those, if you want to reach out to me to discuss further what you have learned there, or give me some feedback, I'll certainly appreciate that. Your comments and feedback there.
What's the best way for them to reach you? LinkedIn, or what's the best way for
you? Yeah, LinkedIn, Mosongo Moukwa. I think there is only Mosongo Moukwa there on LinkedIn. Yeah. So reach out to me. Let's continue the conversation. And when you do, please mention that I was at Steve and Rob's show, Master Connector show. That certainly will be great. Yes,
I appreciate it. Well, we really appreciate you. You blessed our community as I knew you would. So appreciate you, Mosongo. I'm going to put you in the green room and look forward to chatting for a few minutes after.
Yeah, thank you.
Ken. Yes. Appreciate you. Awesome stuff. Wow. Well, listen, if you're excited about that, next week, Creating a Successful Life with Nina Sosamon Pug. Maybe butchering that. Apologies, Nina. But next week, 29th at 1 o'clock EST. Same bad time, same bad channel. It's going to be great. And then if you're interested in learning about more shows, up and coming shows, or how to be a sponsor, or how to be a guest on the show, go to masterconnector.show. Rob does a great job keeping things up to date, at least all the way for a few months. And we are booked out all the way to January. So it's pretty amazing. And speaking of Rob, don't forget, he's got his book out, Don't Fear the Brand. Amazing book. Pick it up for sure. But I want to finish with a story. Alex Hormozi.
I'm sorry, I got to bust right in here, Steve.
Okay.
Because I messed up, everybody. I do apologize. You guys understand that Steve just did a TEDx talk, and I probably should have talked about this sooner. But the reason it's so important is because Steve does a talk that I actually have not heard much about, and that was how introverts can have an edge. And Steve and I are both introverts, and I know there's people out there, because I meet them all the time, who go, I'm just not that way. And what they mean is outgoing, talkative, gregarious. You don't have to be an extrovert to win, to get an edge. You actually have an edge if you're an introvert. And Steve's talk is about that way. So I'm gonna put that link in the chat there, Steve. So apologize for not saying that sooner. It's brand new. They just released it. I did catch it a couple of times, and it is absolutely amazing. So good job, Steve. I want to make sure everybody's aware of that. I appreciate
you big time. Thank you. What a good friend you are. Yeah. Wow. How do you follow that? But anyway, Alex Hormozi built his entire brand by consistently showing up online, sharing raw, no fluff insights on business, value, and growth without trying to impress anyone. By focusing on clarity over charisma and substance over style, he turned his content into trust, and that trust into a massively successful portfolio of companies and a global following. His journey is proof that when you show up with honesty, deliver real value, and stay consistent, you don't just build a business, you become a beacon of light that can help others cut through the noise and see what is truly possible. Folks, let's make sure to shine our light. God bless. We'll see you next week.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes,
because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives